This guy. Hey, welcome back to Fake D. It's been a minute. John had a birthday dinner to go to, so we had to postpone. Hopefully, he had a good dinner.
I hope
Shout
it did.
out to the missus.
Shout out to the missus. So we are back. Like I said 2 weeks ago, we were going to get political. So we got a little bit of political conversations for you. So before we get into it, let's introduce the crew. We have John,
You're
Doc,
yo.
Ian in the figurative back,
Hello.
and myself, Eugene. All right, so the first to get our feet wet in the politics, I feel like we haven't talked about politics in a while. We'll talk about the Russell Brand situation. John's face. So we had a little dab, little touch of politics, not like anything super political.
How we always end up right where we need to be. Though.
That's funny. But this one's semi-political, and the reason why it's political is because I want to kind of, for me personally, I don't mind talking about anything related to Russell Brand specifically, but the thing I wanted to bring up in reference to like the political theme we got going on today is how
Mhm.
I'm gonna read the title here. UK Parliament sends letters to social media platforms demanding demonetization of Russell Brand, which
Did they
is
really?
wild. Which is wild. So let me read a little bit of this and then we'll get into the drama of it. All right, so the UK Parliament has sent letters to TikTok and Rumble expressing concerns that comedian Russell Brand could be profiting off the platforms. Quote, I am writing concerning the serious allegations regarding Russell Brand in the context as a user of TikTok with more than 2.2 million followers on the platform. The letter to the Theo Bertman, TikTok Director of Government Relations Europe, began. The following day after TikTok was sent the letter, Rumble received a similar letter from Dineneg, I'm butchering that name, noting Brand's 1.4 million followers on the platform and asking whether Rumble, quote, intends to join YouTube in suspending Mr. Brand's ability to earn money on the platform. And then Rumble responded, I don't know if I'm going to read the full one, but basically told UK to shove it. Here's, I think, a little summary right here. UK government aims to cancel Russell Brand. The British government sent a letter to TikTok. That's summary there. I don't want to read the full thing. I'll just read the beginning of it, which is Dear Theo, I'm running concern, blah, blah, blah. Oh, that's the actual letter. Where's the response from Rumble? Here we go. Down a little bit more, Ian. A little bit more. Keep going. Okay, I'm sorry. You went too far. I'm sorry. I was looking at the wrong one. You're right. You were right. My bad. Rumble response. Today we received an extremely disturbing letter from a committee chair in the UK Parliament. While Rumble obviously deplores... What did I click on? Deplores sexual assault, rape, and all serious crimes, and believes that both alleged victims and the accused are entitled to a full and serious investigation, it is vital to note that recent allegations against Russell Brand have nothing to do with content on Rumble's platform. Just yesterday, YouTube announced that based solely on these media accusations, it was barring Mr. Brand from monetizing his video content. Rumble stands for very different values. We have devoted ourselves to the vital cause of defending a free internet, meaning an internet where no one arbitrarily dictates which ideas can or cannot be heard, or where citizens may or may not be entitled to a platform. We regard it as a deeply inappropriate and dangerous that the UK Parliament would attempt to control who is allowed to speak on our platform or to earn a living from doing so. Singling out an individual and demanding his ban is even more disturbing given the absence of any connection between the allegations and his content on Rumble. We don't agree with the behavior of many Rumble creators, but we refuse to penalize them for actions that have nothing to do with our platform. Lastly, although it may be politically and socially easier for Rumble to join a cancel culture mob, doing so would be a violation of our company's values and mission. We emphatically reject the UK Parliament's demands. And then I think he attached the letter from Parliament. That's where I was getting confused. My bad, Ian.
Has the
Yeah,
Parliament made a response?
I don't think so. I think this happened like within the past couple days. So I doubt they had a response yet. I'm sure they're probably like trying to come together with their big minds that is the government officials at the UK Parliaments to have appropriate response to this if they even deem it as appropriate to respond to this, which I
That's
don't
kind
think
of
they
what
do.
I'm wondering. I'm like, is it the actual Parliament? Like, I get he's an official from Parliament, but is it actually Parliament that ordered the issue, or is it just like this guy using his office?
I don't know what you
Uh,
mean.
like
He's asking if is it essentially one guy on a power trip, or is this an agreed upon thing sent
yeah,
by
yeah.
all
Was
of
this
Parliament?
like Article 17? The House of Conference people talk about this. Fucking Kurt Russell. I was gonna say, Russell Brand. Like the whole fucking committee voted on sending this letter. Or is it just one dude who's like, "Oh, I'm the relations officer. I'm gonna send this out."
I'm gonna be completely fair. I'm not sure exactly how the UK's government parliament is like structured, so I don't know if that they have something similar where they have to
It's
go through a
structured
committee and
basically. It's basically structured like ours, but as far as
Yeah,
like sending this out, because this is just a letter. As far as it's concerned, this is just a request. It's not any actual. The only formal thing on the letter is the fact that it came from somebody in Parliament, but there's no actual like. It's a request. If you like, so to Doc's point, I think maybe like I don't think everybody in Parliament agreed to send this letter or knew the letter was being sent.
yeah. I
I
feel
think
like
this
the
is
relations guy probably was just like, "I'm gonna take it upon myself to do this."
well, to be
Um,
fair too, like John said, and he's right. Like this was a request. So if it's a request, does it really need to be voted on? Because they're not demanding, they're
but
requesting. And that's I think the little loophole they're saying here.
Mhm.
At the behest of the government, we are with the gun pointed out, requesting you do this.
but you're. I mean, the article is inciting. It is the Parliament that made the like that is
Mhm.
coming at you. You know what I mean? Like the
I think it's fair to make that assumption. I mean, if to be fair, I don't know, and you guys tell me if I'm wrong in this assumption. Like, if I was Russell Brand and I got a letter from a government official, like he works in Congress, like he's a House representative, I would then say the U.S. government is coming after me. I would verbalize it that way because they are a representation of the power that is the United States government. Just like this person is a representative of the power of the UK government. So I think it's fair to characterize it as the UK Parliament is coming after me. And it's up to the UK Parliament. Like that's why it's fair for you to then ask, did they have a response to this? Because if this is some rogue going renegade with his power hungry self trying to send out these emails, like being a little bit, I
yeah, it's
guess,
a little too
forceful.
much. 'Cause-
Yeah, like
Yeah.
maybe we don't know, but I think it's fair to characterize it that Parliament is coming after me or after them or flexing their power. I think it's fair to characterize it that way.
Yeah, that's
Yo,
definitely
I
Phil.
why I
agree.
wondered. Because the other issue with it too is like he hasn't been tried yet.
Exactly.
So like he's being, he's having his like what's the word, like Tether's cut without an actual trial, without any kind of representation for it or or conviction really, and like that in itself. Like from what I saw from different videos, people talking about this is like as soon as YouTube was like we're cutting your content and stuff like that, like there hasn't been any trial or any conviction, and they're even this it's like they're
Well,
going at all of like the money bags without any actual conviction within the government. And also the biggest thing that I heard too that was like a core issue from the news outlet I saw with the BBC and like their like I guess their Fox News like variant is that the women went to journalists before going to the police about the
no, I don't
allegations.
think that's true. I
Is
don't. I
it?
think the journalists went to the women. The
Oh, that might be
journalists
it
went to
too.
the women and convinced the women. Because, from my understanding, is there
Well, it's a news
um
channel that did it.
yes, the Channel 4, if I remember correctly. The
Yeah,
channel
yeah, yeah.
we reacted to, I think, 2 weeks ago about that pedophile who came forward to talk, like, ask a pedophile, whatever that segment was, behind the mask. But that's a different conversation. From my understanding, the sequence of events is, what's up, Ethan?
Hey, what's up, man?
My understanding is some of these girls had issues with Russell Brand way back then. One girl actually apparently actually put in a rape kit incident at some place beforehand, but then like didn't go through with it or something like that because she deemed it unnecessary. She didn't follow through with the report. But from my understanding is Channel 4 did a documentary, and then the journalists involved with said documentary sought out these women. They just, from my understanding, went out and just threw a fishing line until they finally caught enough fish to make a documentary about Russell Brand. And then after the documentary came out, then the UK Parliament decided let's start an investigation. So it wasn't investigation documentary, it was documentary investigation, which I think is kind of weird. I don't I don't know how I feel about that. Like,
Well, I mean, they're going back and they're doing due diligence for some issues, and it's complex to really get into because it's like you can't say definitively if they were raped or not until the investigation is complete and there's been a conviction and stuff like that.
but the issue is, what are they going to investigate? This was 15 years plus years ago. Like, I don't. I'm not trying to be like. I don't know. Like, when I say this, I'm not trying to be like insensitive. I literally am asking, like, what exactly can they investigate?
Well,
Like, the
that's
incident is gone and past. Like, it sucks for these women if they were genuinely assaulted or raped or graped. Like, I don't know how
I let
that
that
you.
word slip so many times up until now. I've just been
Yeah,
sitting here.
yeah. Why don't you say something then, John? Speak up, bro.
I didn't want my voice to even be in the sound clip with it when y'all said it.
the thumbnail and your fucking lips are mouthing it out already.
Well, like, if they really were, like, forgive me, but I don't know how you would prove something like this
They would
after
have
a
to talk to a
decade. Yeah,
lot of people, and there'd be a
like,
lot of hearsay,
it's
and
all nothing but
like
hearsay.
there'd have to be like some footage or some really nuanced document that proves it. But yeah, it is really difficult. The panel I saw that was talking about it, uh, the women in it were actually the ones who were like, "Why aren't they going to the police?" And then the guy was like, "Oh, it's really difficult," and he's just like, "No," he's like, "If you should have gone to the police like the day after or something like that,
Yeah,
or
I'm not gonna lie. This is me being insensitive, but I don't like hearing that rebuttal. Why don't you go to the police? It's really hard. I'm sure going through an assault is also really hard. Like, which one's harder? I don't know. I don't know how to phrase this right, but I just think that's
That would have been
weird in
the
my
worst
opinion.
time for a "That's What She Said" joke. That would have literally been the worst time for a "That's What She Said"
It
joke.
was in your head,
May I
huh?
interject?
It was just sitting there just going nuts, huh?
May I
Yeah, go
interject
for it.
though?
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Um, well, first off, when me and you first started sharing Russell Brand's videos, his subscribers on YouTube was at like 1.1, 1.2 million maybe at the time.
Now he's
He's
at like
upwards of five.
6.
He's
Yeah.
at six. He's at six now. So I like that two things haven't been addressed here. One, I'm not between y'all two, but just did they ever call Russell Brand a liar?
They
Did
call him a
the
they dis
conspiracy theorist. They call him a
they call him a
conspiracy
conspiracy,
theorist.
but have they disproved or shut down any of the things?
6.65 million subscribers on YouTube.
Okay,
6.65.
I
boom.
don't know if they've
Okay,
ever
so
like disproved it or if they've gone after his
they don't. And
statements.
he offers as much information as he can, and he argues against himself like a crazy person, which is beautiful to see
He's
because
completely
that's how you
fair.
find
He does have his biases, but he acknowledges biases and he
knowledge is
opens it up for alternative perspectives, which is that's why I
boom.
like Russell Brand. I watch Russell Brand.
So they go hand in hand, right? Somebody can gain popularity, and because of that popularity, be looked into just based off of name recognition, right? And that, no,
You're
it's
right, but
but on the other hand, if somebody is seen as a disruptor, they can also be targeted based on how big of a disruption or
they're
they
causing
may feel
or
they're causing,
yeah.
right? So it could be either or, it could be a mixture of both. Now, I'm gonna be honest with you. Russell Brand, in Forgetting Sarah Marshall, has to be one of the funniest human beings I've ever seen grace a screen. And that's just me being honest with you, right?
Yeah, the movie's
That
fucking
Russell
awesome.
Brand, it's not in the realm of reality that Russell Brand didn't do what these women said they did, what they said he did. But I can't ignore the fact that the reason for it coming to light, in my opinion, is based off of the information that he's giving and what he's using, not even what he's using his platform to do, is the main reason I feel this is being brought to light. But on the same hand, is it impossible that Russell Brand, that used to be a cokehead alcoholic, went about sexually assaulting anybody? I mean, if you ask me the honest truth, if I was leaning
Well,
one way or the other,
let me give a little more
my
context
bias
real
would say
quick.
yes. Hmm?
Well, let me give a little more context real quick, because I didn't actually watch a documentary. This is second-hand information. Like I watched several podcasts of people who have watched the documentary. I haven't myself actually watched it, so I'm gonna give you like a telephone version of what I heard the documentary was about. So there's four women specifically. Of these four women, only one, from my understanding, is alleging actual rape. She actually is the one who has text message receipts, which people are questioning the text messages, saying they're photoshopped. I don't know if they are or not. That's up to you, but that's what they're claiming. She has text message receipts. She actually has documentation of she went to a clinic and had to get a kit and whatnot. In the text message receipts, they had a little bit of a spat. Russell Brand apologized because she said no. He didn't respect the no, and she asked to have to get tested, and he said no, and he's apologetic, and he'll make it up to her. And from my understanding, from the text message that I read, it wasn't that he forced himself on her. It was that he had sex with her without a condom, and she didn't, and she wanted to use a condom. So either he sneakily took the condom off, or he said he put one on and never did. If that so
Categorizing sexual assault, though.
so it's either sexual, so either that falls in the category of sexual assault or grape. However you guys feel about it, I don't know. That's that one. The other ones are a little bit, I don't like, again, I'm not trying to be
Cloudy,
insensitive, but you said what?
cloudy, like it's iffy.
I guess that's a fair way to put it. Cloudy and iffy. For example, one was with the girl in the UK. Apparently, it's legal when they're 16. So at the time, Russell Brand was got involved with this 16-year-old. Apparently, she walked into whatever studio, whatever area he was working at the time. I'm extremely summarizing everything. So if you guys are interested, go watch the documentary to find out information. But she walks in, Russell Brand sees her, she has a bag, Russell Brand's like, let me see the bag. He grabs the bag, finds a dress, pulls out the dress, and is like, this is what you're gonna wear on our first date, or whatever, blah blah blah. They obviously have a little interaction, and eventually it doesn't pan out, and it seems
Eventually,
like
she had a curfew.
eventually she had a curfew. And it sounds like, in this, again, I'm not trying to be insensitive, I could be wrong, I didn't watch the documentary. It sounds like she just was a little heartbroken, upset that a star didn't take her seriously and it didn't pan out, so she felt like she was taken advantage of, and now she's
He
alleging.
smashed
Oh,
this
100% he smashed.
16-year-old.
That's what it sounds like. And then another similar situation,
Is
I
that the
don't think
one where the parents like drove her to the date?
if that's true, bro, that's wild. I don't know if that's true. I hope that's not
The
true.
panel
I don't
I
remember
saw
hearing that.
said that like the parents deliberately took the 16-year-old because they mentioned the 16-year-old, but that they deliberately like took him to the date or something like that.
That's wild.
I
That's
don't know if
wild.
they knew that it would be
R.
you
Kelly's
know Russell
confused.
Brand was on the other end, or if it was just her being
Yo,
like, "I'm going to on a date" or what. But
Russell Brand on that R. Kelly status.
After Russell Brand.
Anyway, so and then another girl, apparently a Russell Brand's assistant, from my understanding, hooked them up. This assistant knew this woman. Russell Brand, I guess, asked the assistant to hook them up or set them up. They got set up. Obviously, fanoodling happened, and Russell Brand, I guess, cut her off, stopped talking to her, and then the girl felt taken advantage of, felt used. Like, how could you set me up with this guy? I thought this and that, blah blah blah. And now she's coming out saying what she's saying now because I guess she just felt like taken advantage of. I,
The
the reason
information
why
he gave us as far as them being scorned, is that
that's what it,
information from their mouth?
that say what again is information from their mouth.
Is that the women saying that? Like, oh, we had sex and then he didn't hit me back up?
For
Or
my
is that
I'm not 100% sure because in the documentary they used paid actors. The women are anonymous. So I'm not sure how much is 100% accurate and how much has been, not embezzled, but like dramatized for the sake of the documentary. I'm not sure. I'm not sure.
but it's kind of also weird that the channel that you're mentioning is also the one, the Mask show, because it kind of implies that the channel goes for this kind of shock stuff. Like
100%. Yeah, that's fair.
they dropped the documentary before they went to the police instead of being like, "Oh, we found this information. Let's go to the police," and then drop the documentary or anything like that. Like clearly, the views were more important than
I ain't
going
gonna
to the
lie, yeah.
authorities.
But go to police with what though? Like
16 is tough to hear, bro.
With the information you discovered during your investigation of like your documentary, you know what I mean? Like the clear order would be like, oh shit, I just found something. In my mind at least, is like I'm gonna go to the cops and then like have this evidence and stuff. But it's like, nah, I'm gonna finish the documentary and that shit's gonna drop
Ethan,
and that's gonna
they
be
made a documentary
a
on Michael
bomb.
Jackson over and over again
And
when he
then
touched
all
them
this shit's gonna
kids.
happen. The clout was more important than justice.
Correct. But I'll be real with y'all. I fuck with Russell. I'm a liberal. Except for Russell Wilson. I don't fuck with him. But Russell Westbrook, that's my guy. You know what I'm saying? Russell Brand, that's my guy.
So
16?
the reason why I had to give a little more context to what you were saying, John, is because, and I could be biased too, because like I agree with what you just said. Now, I like Russell Brand. I listen to Russell Brand. I'm a fan of Russell Brand. I mess with him, but I'm reluctant
Yeah,
to
me
believe
too,
Russell.
Gene. Shit.
This guy. I'm reluctant to, I guess, concede that he assaulted these women or abused these women. It sounds more like, and again, I could be wrong, me being insensitive. It sounds more like women that are scorned, trying to get their get back.
Yeah,
If
which
any,
sounds like the
if
opinions
any,
of the people who watched the documentary, correct?
maybe.
I
If
mean, the
any,
videos you saw is what I'm
yeah,
asking.
yeah. If anything, it just sounds like Russell Brand was a typical guy who was a high value man. He's just taking it like he's just out here, just going through women. Like he's just a douchebag. He was an asshole. Like I'm not trying to defend it or say it was a good thing. I'm just saying that like that's what it sounds like to me. He was the unfortunate douchebag jerk asshole that unfortunately women tend to go for, and then afterwards women were like, I don't like this. Why did he treat me this way? Why'd you go for it? And then now
I
Russell
don't
Brand finally
think
found himself.
I don't think he's walking around sexually assaulting women,
I don't
to
think
be
so
honest with
either.
you.
I don't think
But
so either.
I can't say that he doesn't have the past characteristics of somebody who would. That's the only thing that in my mind I'm like, okay, I just can't completely eliminate it. Plus, I don't know the nigga. Like, I don't
See,
know this nigga for
fair.
real for me to say this or not. But
100%
you
fair.
told me 16, and ever since I heard 16, I've heard 16 now. So we can, even if everything else is a lie, the man knowingly smashed a 16-year-old.
That's a
That's a
problem.
problem for me.
I understand.
Well,
Just
supposedly when he was younger, he was like sex addict,
yeah,
and
he
it's like famous that he was a sex addict as well as a drug
Sex
addict or
addict. It
something
was
like that.
famous that he was on cocaine too and
Yeah.
but
heroin.
that's the point a lot of people are making. While Russell Brand was a drug addict, a sex addict, why didn't these allegations, which were obviously there, they were there. This
He
happened, like
wasn't
they were there.
popping.
Why is it? That's the point. Now I guess I'm going to allude now to Ethan's question because I was going to ask this question, but Ethan asked it, so I'm going to piggyback off him. Ethan said, "So, question: with the way things are with mainstream media and government cohesiveness, do you think this is a hatchet job against him?"
It didn't.
Personally, I say yes. I think it's completely a hit job against Russell
What
Has
do
he
you
Brand.
been
mean it
saying
didn't
shit
happen?
like that? Like, has he been calling out politicians make those kinds
Russell Brand has been very outspoken about his being anti the war industrial complex, anti pharmaceutical companies. Russell Brand has been very vocal about it. I'm pretty sure that on the right wing, their conspiracy is the specific clip that I guess you could say the straw that broke the camel's back was when he went on Bill Maher and he basically did a whole spiel about the war industrial complex and the pharmaceutical companies, saying how like the for a Pfizer guy said the motivation for this COVID vaccine is not to make money, but yet they profited X amount of billions of dollars, and then government like they say they don't want this, but then they're out here with funding Ukraine. And he made a point at the very end saying, when you have a pharmaceutical industry that benefits off of
People being
disasters,
sick.
pandemics, they'll make people sick. They'll make disasters. If you have a war industrial complex that benefits off war, they'll create wars. And there's that clip that's going viral like crazy because that's what they're saying, that this is what got him in trouble. So to your question, Doc, yes, Russell Brand has been very outspoken about his distaste for the pharmaceutical industry and the war industrial complex that politicians
And
are heavily involved in, and the media is heavily funded by Pfizer specifically.
one in those clips too, he was well spoken enough to not actually say that they're. He didn't say that they're willingly. He didn't. He actually didn't. Let me put it like this. He didn't word it to make them. He didn't villainize them in wording it. he said we can't have these
Situations or
situations exist because it incentivizes people to do those things. So he was speaking to the motivation behind. He didn't say, "Oh, that's what's currently going on," which is what's currently
that's
going
true.
on. He
That's
said,
true.
"These, if you have these rules and these complexes in our infrastructure, it's always going to incentivize people doing those type of things." But here's the thing, though: we're not going to pretend it wasn't a hatchet job. But I also can't say this didn't
This didn't
happen.
happen. That's fair.
So
That's fair.
like
Both can
this
be true.
this both can be true. So this goes to my point that we had a long time ago where I say don't forget why like I think a lot of times we get lost in the motivation behind somebody doing something versus the actual reality of what they're doing or the information that we're actually hearing. So two things can be true. He could be a guy who did sexually assault people. That doesn't make anything he said less true, but it also doesn't mean he shouldn't be punished for what he did if he did do it. But
Best
I think
example is Martin Luther King. Martin Luther King was a habitual cheater. Does that take away the civil rights progress
okay,
he
there we go,
did?
Gene. Yep, yep, yep. It takes all the way. Takes it all the way,
Does
Gene.
it?
I was thinking that in
100%.
my mind. I was trolling. I was like, I'm gonna
100%.
troll him. I'm gonna say that, and then you said it first.
Don't mean nothing no more, man.
Yeah,
But
man.
nah, yeah, I mean, most of our leaders, they said Gandhi had his issues. Like
I'm sure
most
he
of our,
did.
yeah, most of these people were human. So yes, I'm sure, and I don't want to excuse it by calling them human, but I'm just saying sometimes we gotta separate the message from
Well, I think it's
the
okay saying it
person.
they're human because the point is we all have our flaws, and hopefully people don't
But
become their
some things
flaws. They
aren't
rise above their
flaws.
flaws.
But okay,
Well,
so something the reason why I didn't say human is because cheating is a flaw, I guess, right?
fair.
Sexually assaulting people is not a flaw.
That's fair. That's fair.
It's a sickness. That's a
It's a
sickness,
sickness.
100%. So, like I said, I believe he's telling the truth when it comes to war industrial complex and pharmaceuticals, but it doesn't make this not possible. But honestly speaking, my own bias based off the information he gives me and how well I receive it, I don't want it to be true. So I'm gonna lean that way until, innocent until proven guilty. But oh no,
I
dog. You
I
doing
pers-
heroin, you making bad decisions. You having sex with 16-year-olds, you making bad decisions.
Yeah, the
So
16-year
like
old is the only thing that's wild to me. I personally don't think he was
heroin
out
is
here
also
just
wild.
saying people. It's just that the fact that the 16-year-old, it's that I understand that's a
Heroin.
problem.
Heroin is also wild.
Well, the crazy thing about it too is,
I don't know
again,
that
all
for
I
the
have to
excuse
really
heroin.
pull off of the conversation is what I heard in the because they raised some points that I've had to consider. Like one of the women in the panel says, it's not like the man hasn't repented. The man's written books on addiction. He's written books on how to deal with mental sickness, and
Correct.
he spent the past couple years of his life trying to bring information
Repent or
eloquently to help the masses as opposed to stay on what he was. You know what I mean? Like doesn't that there's that one book where it shows him when he's got like the needle in his arm because somebody took a photo of him or something like that when he was doing it, or it's a picture I've seen of him like in like a heroin
I'm sure
like
there's a bunch of
euphoria.
pictures of him doing some crazy stuff. To be honest,
But that's the thing, right? Like he has tried to talk about all of that stuff and all of the early issues that he did and being an addict in general. So is this strong enough to throw all that away, to not make it count? Like
He's trying to defame his character so that way we don't believe the rest of the shit he's talking about.
hundred,
That's really what
hundred,
it is.
yeah,
But
hundred
I
percent.
can separate the two. Send a nigga.
Yeah,
Look, if y'all prove he did it, send a nigga to jail. Just get that nigga a podcast mic and a camera. That's all he needs.
in the
Send that
jail
nigga to
cell.
jail. Let him do his pod from jail. I don't care. But like, don't try and. They want this to be the bigger story than the viral clip of him going around. They need this to be more important.
That's the thing. I'm kind of torn between like a greater scheme where it's just like, yeah, maybe the hatchet thing is happening. There's this overarching umbrella that's trying to push him, but maybe there's also this media, this news channel that's trying to make a name for itself, and so they're using whatever they were able to get. And this all kind of comes down to whether or not he actually did it or not. Because if he did do it, then maybe they're both true. Maybe they overarching umbrella used this tiny media site that's trying to make or channel that's trying to make a name for itself to exploit this, or bring it to light. And if he didn't do it, then that's a whole other issue because it's just like fuck that news
He
channel.
denied the claims.
Well, the
I
problem
actually
is,
don't know. That's actually a good
yes,
question.
he denied the claims. Right before it, he was sent an email. He said a letter and an email, and he released like a 4-minute, 3-minute video saying that I got an email letter about a documentary coming out, and I just want to get ahead of this and let y'all know. I vehemently, with his hands, I love his hands. He always has his hands right here, and he moves from here with his hands. I vehemently refutes these allegations. So yes, he refutes these allegations.
Damn. Well, we'll see what happens.
Ethan says, I'm not making excuses for intimacy with a minor, but was it illegal? There are plenty places here in the US where 16 is the age of consent. It wasn't illegal. While distasteful, wasn't wrong. No, I don't think
Fair.
it
No,
was
yeah, we're
illegal, but I also don't think the people that make the laws on everything got everything right too. So like
yeah. I don't
the
think our
same way I
argument is
don't
it's not bothering us that it's like I think he said it right there. We just find it distasteful. We're not saying it's legal. We just find it distasteful. That's why it bothers us because it's wild
yes.
as him as like probably a 30, 35-year-old man, like our age range between 30 and 40, having sex with a 16-year-old like that would
Will
bother
show
me.
some
I would feel some type of way the whole time. Like I would feel some type of way, and then it's wild not to think that he didn't feel some type of way. Like yeah, I just
also
that
is
yeah.
close to SA. It's real close. It's if you could not be SA, that's the line. That's
That's
where
the
he was.
line.
What's
That's where he
SA?
tiptoed.
Sexual assault.
Uh,
That's where he tiptoed. He was like, let me get as close to it as possible, but not do it. Like, I don't
that's
know.
that's funny because that's what I was thinking right now. He at that point in time in his life, he was probably in such a state of like, fuck it. That he actually saw that line and was like, fuck it. I'm just gonna touch it and then
Tip my toe
turn
off.
around.
It was
Yeah.
probably erotic to him. Like he was all about
Hope
eroticism
he
and
turned around.
I mean I think he's turned around. 100% think he's turned around.
No,
I
no,
just
no. He said he touched that line and turned around. So I hope he turned
I
around.
hope he turned around.
So he crossed that line.
I hope so too. Because if he crossed it, then like I said, it's just a downward spiral to see if
So
his career just comes crashing down.
But I will say that when stuff like that happens, I'm not talking about the essay or whatever, but when you live a life like that, you end up doing a lot of self-reflecting, and you can tell from you can tell from how he speaks, what he's passionate about, and how he carries himself now that he's done a lot of self-reflection. And unfortunately, a lot of that comes with trauma or comes from like negative or really bad experiences, whether you doing it or somebody doing it to you. So, I mean, I would say he's got a lot of his perspective from his life. His life has been tumultuous.
all right, Ethan said, then after this, let's move on to the next topic. But don't you find it odd that they add his intimacy with a 16-year-old, but left out the part whether or not it was illegal? They want to create an anger towards him, and this helps that narrative. Oh, 100%. Like I agree with that. Like they
I
definitely
agree with
have,
that,
yeah,
but I also didn't need their help to be bothered by it.
yeah,
They didn't have to.
exactly.
They didn't have
Yeah,
to coax me into being upset about him having sex with a 16-year-old. That just happened naturally. Like whether it's legal, they could have said it's super legal. They could have added super in front of legal, and I still wouldn't have liked it because she's sick. To me, for example, okay, Ethan, as a man, if you have a homeboy who likes having sex with 16-year-olds, you're gonna look at him some type of way. It's just how it is because you're going to assume other things about them. Not to say those things are true, but there are things that come with that type of taste, if you will, that I'm going to assume until proven otherwise. It may be wrong, it may be bad, it may be I'm human too. But like you having sex with 16-year-olds, I'm gonna assume you're a little
thought
creepy.
you don't like to judge people, John.
I said I'm human.
Oh no, I'm just messing with you.
hmm
All
I'm
right,
human. I can't help that one. 16,
so
that's too close to 15, which
That'd
is
be
too
weird,
close to
man.
10.
well, it's
You
just
talk
the
to your
age
boy,
gap.
and your
So
boy's
if
like,
If
It
she
was
was
like, hold up, I
16,
gotta get my girlfriend. She's getting out
if
of
she was
band
16, he was
practice.
26, would it still be an issue? For me, the issue is because he's in his 30s. I think at the time he was around 35. Like this, it's damn near a 20-year age gap. Like 15 to 20-year age gap. Like that's for me. That's why it's a problem. If he was 26, she was 16. I guess it's a little less forgivable because it's legal. It still would be a problem for me a little bit. Like she still got to grow up a little bit more. Like, but I guess I won't be as upset. But man, you're around 35 and she was 16. Like you're full on 2 decades past her, bro. Like 2 generations. Like my
It's a,
man. Like
it's the bending of the rules. I mean, at that point, it's like it's the bending of the rule, man. Like it's the age. Just like John said, it's like the very like line.
all right, so let's move on to the next topic. And the reason I don't know if y'all have heard about this, but the reason why I wanted to highlight this and granted, Russell Brand in context to our theme about politics, Russell Brand is the UK politics, and this is more US politics. But I still think it's a good. I think the word I'm thinking of is dichotomy or polarity or this hypocrisy when it comes to politicians and media and corruption and this like allegation stuff, which is Senator Bob Menendez of New Jersey indicted on federal bribery charges.
Oh, I
Have
saw
y'all
this.
even heard about this?
I mean, I saw the article, but I'll be honest,
Okay.
politics aren't like on my
Click
radar.
on it.
Well, the reason why I asked
Look,
is because I'm sure everyone heard about the Russell Brand thing, but I'm almost positive that no one really heard about the Senator Bob Menendez fiasco going on. It's like you got a Russell Brand who just speaks on politics, and you got an actual politician who's being indicted on bribery charges. Like this is wild. Like this is wild. So let's get into this. So Senator Robert Menendez, a Democrat of New Jersey, and his wife Nadine have been indicted on bribery charges. Justice Department officials announced Friday detailing what officials said was a corrupt scheme involving gold bars, stacks of cash, and using this senator's powerful position to secretly benefit the Egyptian government. The indictment against the couple and three associates lays out wide-ranging abuse of power that the senator and his wife Nadine Menendez are accused of committing in exchange for cash and gift totaling hundreds of thousands of dollars. At one point, Menendez is alleged to have pressed the Biden administration to nominate a U.S. attorney in New Jersey to who he thought would be sympathetic to one of Bush's three associates. Fred Dybez, a real estate developer who was facing federal fraud charges. In another instance, Menendez allegedly took meetings with Egyptian military officials as part of an arrangement that secured his wife a quote low or no-show job with another of the associates, Wael Hana, an
and Hunter
Egyptian
Biden?
American. You said what?
You said what about Hunter Biden?
No, with the Biden administration.
No, but you said it was a no-show job.
Oh, basically, yeah, I get what you're saying.
So that's how that works out?
Oh, yeah, it's 100% how that
Okay.
works.
Okay, cool.
Well,
Now you know for future or what? Like,
no, she's what John is pointing to is a trend, like a consistent pattern we see with politicians and their children and their how they acquire their jobs.
You said it
And
was New Jersey? New
New
Jersey,
Jersey,
what was he, a senator?
Senator, yeah,
So a New Jersey senator was making deals with the whole country of Egypt.
select politicians in Egypt probably. I want to say the whole country, but like certain
What does
officials
New
maybe.
Jersey have to do with Egypt that those two would even be communicating?
that's,
Oh,
so
he was a senator, so he was probably on a what do they call them? I forgot the
Board,
exact term. Not a board, but like a
committee?
committee, exactly. A committee that dealt with foreign relations, specifically regards with foreign relations with Egypt.
oh, and some guy just walked up and
So
dropped the
what?
fucking
Wait,
gold ring.
hold on. So how do you set? So Jersey, you get Egypt. Like how do you section that committee? Like what states are on this committee or what senator? Like do you know how many questions immediately come to my mind when you tell me a New Jersey senator is building something, some type of legal relationship with Egypt?
My understanding, they request to be on certain committees. I'm not sure the specifics of it, but it's like you apply to be on a committee, and it's like, yeah, you get this or you don't, kind of thing. I'm not 100% sure.
They're trafficking a mummy, man. He's coming to destroy us.
That's crazy. I
All
don't
right.
get it.
Um, blah blah blah. Those quote those bribes include cash, gold, payments towards a home mortgage, compensation for low or no show job, a luxury vehicle, and other things of value. Charge the indictment, which features photographs of evidence, including stacks of $100 bills atop a black jacket with Senator Mendez stitched on the chest. That sounds a little staged, in my opinion, but whatever. Officials say 69-year-old senator is scheduled to make his first appearance in Manhattan federal court next week. And if you scroll down, Ian, you got the picture of the jacket with the money, and you
Were
got the
they
picture of the
offering the
gold
country?
bars.
What benefits were they offering this politician? What could he do from New Jersey? Please explain to help Egyptians.
Well, it wasn't necessarily that what Egyptians could help New Jersey is what Egyptians could do to help when it came to the greater scheme of the. In my opinion, I'm gonna leak a little bit here. In my biased opinion, with the greater corrupt swamp that is the Uniparty of America. What specifically they wanted, we will never know. But but I mean, this dude has been in politics for a while. I think he's part of the he's a part of the in crowd, and whatever they do in that in crowd, he was probably facilitating relationships for them to get certain benefits or get certain things done. And how they facilitated that was, hey, we'll fill your pockets if you put in a good word for us. It wasn't specifics of like, hey, like we'll help you build and fix roads in New Jersey if you give you gold bars. No, I think it was something as conspiratorial and as wild as you help us get close with these special individuals in this swamp thing y'all got going on. I don't know what they call themselves. I'm gonna call them the swamp monsters. With the swamp monsters, and then we'll give you some gold bars. It's like, okay, sounds good. Let me put in a good word with you with the Bidens, and maybe we'll get you some um um funding that we do with the Ukraine. Well, we split the Ukraine funding and throw some bucks your way. Maybe I don't know the specifics of it. Maybe we'll give you some blueprints to some weapons, or we'll give you some information about your enemy over there in India. I don't know. Like, I don't think it's something as simple as you're a senator of New Jersey, so we'll help you out when it comes to your politics in New Jersey. No, like the senators are
We're just
representatives
helping him out
of.
with money. What can he help them out do?
That's what I'm
That's
wondering too.
exactly
Is
that's
there no?
exactly it.
I mean, yeah, I understand what Gene's saying. Where like
Like, put a word
promising
in?
him, he's promising him whispers for gold, but it's like there's no documentation. Like there's no document or phone calls, anything that's like this is what he actually promised them. Like that's what I want to know. Like, what are you trying to get them? Like, what?
I think he's a scape. I think he's a sheep. I think he's a sacrificial sheep. I think right now the general consensus amongst Americans is the government's corrupt. And I think the swamp people, in my opinion, are kind of seeing, what is the phrase? It's seeing red. Like, they're, in my opinion, worried. So they need a sacrificial lamb to help get the heat off of them. I think, in my opinion, they were
The
trying to
fat
use
guy
Trump.
over so they could run?
Exactly. I think they were trying to use Trump as that sacrificial lamb. And look at all this corruption Trump does. That Trump's involved in. Oh, Trump's this bad guy that does all of this bad illegal stuff. Oh, Trump, we'll hang him. And it's just not working. It's just not working. One of our topics we're going to talk about the Trump indictment. I guess I'll kind of leak that in here a little bit. Like, Trump's getting indicted
Right?
on several different charges, and none of it's working. Like, the people still love Trump. If anything, his polls have gone up because of it. So this little sacrificial lamb that they're trying to use
Water
Trump
joke.
for is just not working. So I think, unfortunately for Bob Mendez, is I think he's the next sacrificial lamb. Like, oh, look at Bob Mendez, and he's a Democrat, y'all, and he's corrupt, and
His
we're
name is
calling
Bob.
it out.
His name is Bob. That's not a good way to go, first and foremost.
But it's
Second of all,
Robert. But yeah.
well, he should go by Rab. But but which he was doing. But okay, so then
Allegedly, remind you, hold on, let's not get in legal problems, that he was allegedly doing. We don't know for a fact.
okay, allegedly. So then my last question is it is it that you said it was a sacrificial lamb? So how far in your conspiratorial mind do you think it goes? Obviously, you're gonna go to Biden, but like, how
Maybe,
you think
probably,
it's on both sides? You think there's
100% both
liberal
sides.
countries and conservative countries that are like jousting for monsters in the swamp that you keep talking about? Like, how do you think this actually works?
Well, honestly, I can't tell you. I really generally don't know how it does work. I can obviously conspiratorialize how it might work, but I generally don't know. The reason why I said that was because of what Doc said. Like, if this is true, which I kind of a little bit leaning towards, why isn't there documentation? If he was doing what they're alleged to, to the degree he was, there should be some level of paper trail. Why aren't we seeing a paper trail? Either we haven't seen it because they have to go through the courts and they're keeping it, hidden for now until they go through the due process, or they don't have a paper trail and they're hiding the paper trail because now this is conspiracy theory coming out. They're hiding the paper trail because it might what's the word I'm thinking of?
I can't think of it.
Like indict other potential elected
Innocent word, but
officials.
I know it. It'll come to you.
Yeah, eventually it'll come to me, but it'll tie in other people into this
It's,
conspiracy, this issue, and so that's why they're kind of limiting the evidence that they have on him and just keeping it to whatever they are releasing right now. Because I don't
you
think
find
it's
it
only
funny that
him.
his
I
wife. You find it funny that his wife was completely involved in this.
No, I don't find it funny. I think it makes
I think it's
sense.
hilarious when his wife is involved in it because she was probably like, "Oh, go get more." Oh, like what? How far do you think her dealings were? What is his wife's? Do you know of his wife's background? Is she a lawyer? Is she?
I can look it up real
Are you
quick. Give me
telling
a
me a
second.
stay-at-home mom was brokering deals with Egypt?
even if she, even if she was, I think it just makes like, let me see, Nadine Menendez. Uh, who isn't even? What things? 5 things you need to know. Blah blah blah. I don't know about. I don't know about her. Why isn't it giving information about her? She fled Lebanon during the Lebanese Civil War. She went to New York University. How she met? They met in
Wait,
an IHOP
wait,
on Union
wait.
City in New
Did
Jersey.
you say Lebanon?
In 2002, the Armenian Report YouTube interview, she said she fled Lebanon, her birthplace during the country's civil war. She said she was born to Armenian parents. Quote, during the civil war, we fled Lebanon to Greece to London and came to the United States and stayed in Palo Alto, California for about 7 months and then moved to New York.
I think she's the tie to Egypt.
Maybe.
She could be. Yeah, if she has people that are still back there.
No, but I think that's how you embezzle money. I think, like, again, to allude to the whole Biden stuff, I think that's what you do is you get a family member working at these companies in said country, and then they give them a certain salary, and then that salary funnels into, the family's pocketbook. I it's like again, I think he's just a sacrificial pawn. Like, oh, distract from the Biden corruption going on because it sounds like the same thing to me. Instead of Hunter Biden getting a special job, it was Menendez's wife getting a special job, and they emphasized either a like low hours or no show kind of job where I don't have to do anything and I still get paid. Like, sounds like Hunter Biden. Like, it just sounds like this is a in my opinion, a very obvious distraction from the corruption that we're seeing when it comes to the Biden family. But it looks the exact same in my opinion. It's a mirror image. It's just instead of the son, it's the wife. Instead of Egypt, it's Ukraine. It's the exact same thing. That's why, in my opinion, it's just these corrupt politicians who have a certain way of garnering rich wealth, certain way of garnering wealth. We're getting, as a in my opinion, hope at least, as a society, as a country, we're becoming a little more aware of the corruption that they now need a sacrificial pawn. They tried Trump. Trump's sacrifice isn't working. Now I think he's on the chopping block. Not trying to
I think they'll
excuse what he's done. It's just random. Like like how did y'all
based
suddenly
off
decide like, oh man, he's getting bribed. We gotta call this out. Like,
so based off the political nature of like just I guess our how our politics is run or whatever. Do you believe that they'll keep cutting off the fat? Every part
Yes.
that's exposed, you think they'll cut off?
Yes.
So there's literally nothing to cut off anymore?
I don't
Or
think
how
it'll
do
go
you
that.
think go for it?
I don't know, but I do think they'll keep cutting figurative fat until they feel
Exposed.
safe again. Will they ever get to a point where there's not enough fat to cut, or until they finally get exposed? I don't know. I hope eventually this stuff gets exposed because then we can finally start healing from all this corruption. Because America needs to heal from all the corruption that these people have done to our country. How do we do that? I think exposure is probably the
Freestyle.
best medicine. You said what?
Freestyle rap battles. That's how we do it.
Freestyle rap battles.
We solve everything with a freestyle rap battle.
Because I said it before, I think every single politician who's been in office more than a decade, in my opinion. If you've been in politics more than a decade, you gotta go. We gotta cut you out. You gotta go. Get fresh blood in here. Y'all gotta go. Y'all are, in my opinion, brainwashed and corrupt. Y'all think certain things are okay that aren't okay. Y'all think you're allowed to do things that you probably shouldn't be allowed to do. Y'all think should have opinions about things you should have opinions on. Like, you gotta go. We gotta decrease the power of government. We gotta decrease the size of government. Like, and that's my personal opinion when it comes to politics and government. I just think all of it's got to be cut. It's got to go. Got to be reduced, and let's basically start over. Like,
100%. I don't know how any politician made it out of the 60s or the 70s. Be real with you. I don't know how you were a politician in the 60s or 70s and you're still a politician now. I don't even believe that should be possible because
you're
so
right.
many
Actually, that's
bad
a valid
decisions was being
point.
made.
That's a
Like it's
valid point.
crazy to me. Y'all were
That's a
making
valid
bad
point.
decisions then. How are you still in office 40 years? Like to hear a senator for 40 years, 30 years is
Hey, it's
crazy.
funny you say that, John, because that means no. I'm not even gonna do it. I'm sorry. Let me stop. Let me stop. Let me stop. I'm not gonna do it. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Let me stop. I already said too much.
How much time we got left on the pod? Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna make a joke about Joe Biden because it's like he was there for the '60s. He said some things in the '60s.
He
Yeah,
said he
people had no
graduated
problem.
top of his class in the 60s.
I was, it's just like
Yeah, he was the most hung.
yeah, it's just wild to me. I agree with you. It's like, man, I don't know. Like I said, I repeat myself again. We need a fresh slate. Cut these people off, and let's bring new people in. I'm a little bit. I'm again to leak a little bit. I'm on, or I guess expose myself. Either one. I'm on the Vivek Ramaswamy 2024 train. Like I like everything he's saying. I'm all about this revolution he's talking about. We
Did
need
I tell
we
you
need a
about my trip to
revolution.
Alabama?
You
Did
said
I tell
what?
you about, did I tell you about the trip to Alabama and the currency concert?
The trip to Alabama in currency concert? I'm not sure what you're talking about.
We went to a currency concert that got canceled. I never told you about that.
I don't think
And the
so.
interaction that actually happened there. Wow.
No.
So I went to a currency concert that got canceled, but we didn't know until we showed our tickets. So it gets canceled. And there's I don't know the country artist's name, but there's a country artist performing instead. So me and the individual are the only people there. And there's a whole bunch of people in cow boots. There's a whole bunch of people in whatever, and we're still willing to go chill, have a drink or whatever. So me and her go to the bar. The first thing that happens, and Gene, if I'm in public, somebody will approach me. So guy approaches me, right? Good. I mean, he didn't mean any harm by it, but he did say, "Fuck the feds." Now, why might I ask you, would he come up to me out of everybody in this bar and say, "Fuck the feds"?
Because you're black. And he tried to
So I
bond
dap
with
him
you.
up. So I dap him up. Them boys, man. I just did 8 months in county, man. Tired of pissing for them folks. So he didn't try and buy us a drink. So he was like, man, anybody mess with you in here, let me know. Why would anybody mess with me in there, G?
I don't know, John. It is Alabama.
Okay, cool. Now, keep in mind, it's Alabama, right? So, we have drinks or whatever. We go outside. We're sitting by ourselves, and two gentlemen come over, and they're like, "Hey, dude," da 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 da. They start talking. What are you guys here for? Are you here for the concert? We're like, "No." He was like, "Oh, well, what did he say?" He said, "If I were you, I'd get out of town. Now I have to stay." right? I
Now I
have
have
to
to
stay.
stay.
I literally have to stay, right? So, I mean, he didn't mean any harm by it. He was being friendly and stuff. And then all of a sudden he starts telling me, dude, and they were all shit faced. He's like, dude, I promise you we're not racist. Dude, there's no problems. I don't know why people think there's problems with us. There's no problems with us, right? I said, right. He said, I promise you I'm not racist. I've never said the N-word, which immediately in my mind says, you said the N-word before. But I keep it pushing. I say, okay, cool, cool, cool. You know what this guy proceeds to do?
Say the
He
N word.
FaceTimes the one black friend he has and hands me the phone.
That's wild.
So I say, hey, fellow black guy. He says, hey, fellow black human being. I says, your friend here says he's never said the N word. He says, he passes the test to my knowledge. I said, that's good to see. Good to hear. Glad to see you're alive and doing well. And I hand him the phone back.
That's
So I say
awkward.
this to say, I could have, at several moments that night, could have got upset and got angry and throwing the race card around and da 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 da. But they sincerely, like me and her both thought, they sincerely didn't mean harm the whole night. They just didn't know how to interact with each other. So I guess my point was, if we figure out how to interact with each other in a more normal or more or less awkward point of view, I guess we'll get to where we're trying to go to, where you're talking about. But right now, I don't think we have the actual communication skills to even get there. It shouldn't be that awkward. It
I
shouldn't be that awkward.
I agree. And the only reason why I think it's that I think it's
They're looking
always
at the news. They're assuming I'm looking at my news, and they're assuming my opinions. Yep, they're assuming my opinions, and I didn't assume their opinion. Like, I mean, they had some funny ones, but like I didn't assume anything. I went in there open, and honestly speaking, too, like, oh, another thing. So they leave after they leave us. The guy who said "fuck the feds" comes up to me and her. Well, not even her, me and her. Comes up to her, and he's like, "Hey, those guys fucking with you? You want me to fuck them up?" We're like, "No, dude, you're okay." As soon as he leaves, they come back to the table like, "Hey, what did he say? You want us to fuck him up?" I'm like, "Damn, we could have started a war."
it started a war.
We had so much power at that moment, dude. I didn't know what to do with it. But no, I had an excellent time and we went back and eventually saw currency. It was an amazing time. But yeah, guys, try and be more understanding. Go into situations without hatred in your heart. You'll come out okay.
Dang, John, that was insightful. That's how we end the podcast right there. Say it one more time.
I don't remember what I said. Don't ask me to do that.
It's a one-time thing. We didn't hear it.
Finger roll.
All right, let's read
That's
these
all I got,
comments.
pimps.
Let's read these comments and close it. So, Ethan said, I think it's about the last topic
Yeah.
at and that is the point. For people that may have been unbiased and willing to wait for facts, they add the 16-year-old poison the well. I agree with that 100%. It's narrative building. It's all about narrative building. It is. To allude to the conversation John was trying to get to, or the story John was getting to, the point he's trying to make is, we have this awkward phase that we're struggling to get over, and I think the reason we're struggling to get over it is because the media wants us to maintain this awkward phase because it's financially lucrative. You do this he said she said, this finger pointing thing, this like, oh, the this guy and the other guy kind of situation going on, like this enemy stuff, blah blah blah. It's financially lucrative. It's clickbait, it's money grabbing. That's why whenever I made this point, John probably disagrees with it, but that's why you have, whenever something bad happens to a specifically a black individual, it goes pretty viral. But something similar happens to a white individual, it doesn't go as viral. There's a reasons for that.
Except kidnappings. Except being missing. Because you a missing little white girl, they gonna find you. I promise you that. So I guess it depends on the issue.
Fair. I just think there's a point to that. Like, I honestly think, as a whole, America is at. I don't know if they're at the top of the cliff, about to hit the top of the cliff, but we're trying our best to round the corner. But the problem is, we have certain people that are just like, stay behind the corners, pushing us like, nah, nah, nah. Let's put some oil on the ground. Let's have y'all slip. Like, they don't want us to round that corner. Cause I'm not. I don't want to say that racism doesn't exist, because obviously it exists. I mean, even with John's experience there, they weren't being racist, but it was just a little
For
questionable.
example, I'm used to dealing with weird shit like that. I'm very good at communicating with people, so I try my best not to see it as an attack. Whereas if Gene was with me that night, Gene would have had some words for those folks. It
I
would
just I just would have said something. That's all I word. That's would have said something. I can't let
you
something
would
like
have
that
something
not be
smart
spoken
out of
on.
his mouth.
I,
Really? First off, when he FaceTimed the other black guy, Gene's first reaction would have been, "Really?"
is this what we're doing right now? You called
Which
another
would have
black
been
guy to talk to
entertaining
your new
too.
black friend to introduce, like you want these guys to be friends or something? What's going on
I
here?
added him on Snapchat. Not the black guy, the white guy. I added him on Snapchat. We're friends on Snapchat now.
That's funny. Should get him to watch the podcast.
Oh,
But
I actually would like him.
my point is that racism exists. I just don't think we have an issue with racism. No one. I don't think anyone looks at other people and the first thought is, "Look at that Mexican. Look at that black guy. Look at that white guy. Look at that Asian guy." Like I don't think. I just don't think that's a prevalent thing. I think it will always be a thing. I just don't think it's as prevalent as in my opinion, as our media companies like to make it out to seem. And I could
Racism
be
is more individualistic than it's like a group thing now. It
100%.
used to be group.
Because I
Go ahead.
experienced racism, like, and it's like Gene, you experienced racism 100%, and I don't even know if you would call it racism because I'm mixed. I have a certain, like, depending on who I'm with, I'll either be seen as a Hispanic or I'll be seen as a white guy. And when I'm with people who are of non-white
Back
backgrounds,
to me
they see
because
me as
this
a
thing is
white
more on
guy.
this stuff.
And they say certain things about, like, oh, go handle your people, Gene. Like, it's because it's a white guy being belligerent around them. It's like, oh, get your people or something like that. It's like, bro, I'm mixed. Like, I'm not white. Like, what are you doing? And when I'm around my white people, they got little comments they like to make, not little jokes, but it's like I've experienced it too. I've never let it bother me because it's not a big deal. Like, I get it. Like, I'm mixed. Like, you don't know how to interact with me because I'm also white, but I'm also Mexican. Like I'm weird.
You're not weird, Gene, first off. And second off, let me tell you something. When I brought Gene around my friends, all niggas really care about is if that dap strong. If that dap come off right, you feel the static. Oh, okay, he good. That's all that. That's all that fucking matters. As long as the dap is good, you good. But no, I've been there when Gene's gone through that too. I've seen it. It does happen, and he handles it well, plays it off well.
I just make
Yeah,
faces. I'm pretty
you're
sure
not
I've looked
weird,
at John
man.
before and been like,
You're not weird, man. I think you're just indoctrinated experiencing being mixed blood in America, where everything seems to be more tribalistic. Like
100%.
in Mexico, it's the most mixed race like country on the planet, or one of the most. And so, like, the most that'll happen is colorism, where like they'll call you güero for being like a different color, or they'll call you gringo just because you're a foreigner. But
Yeah, I've
for the
never been called
most
Weddle,
part,
but I've been called Gringo 100%.
but like for the most part, like if you're Mexican and you're light skin, they just call you güero, and it's not even like an insult. Like it depends on the inflection of the tone of what it's being used. But most people will be like, "Hey, what up? Come over here. I'm selling this thing. You want to buy this thing?" And be like, "Nah, man." I'm like, "Ah, I'm gonna," and you just keep going with your life. But it's like I feel like in the United States, you have to define if you're white, you're black, you're Mexican, you're this and stuff, and so you actually have to like walk around people putting you on that side or that side of the fence. But like in a truly mixed race nation, like you're just light skinned. That's all it really is.
And
And
Tommy
so
Pimpin.
yeah, so I think that's what you're kind of experiencing. You're experiencing other people compartmentalizing.
100%. I only really said that story because my only point was like I'm probably coming from a privileged. I see it as a privileged perspective, whereas I've interacted with multiple different races, ethnicities, where like I think it's a blessing to be born and raised in America because I got to. I've said this many times. Like I've been able to interact with Africans, with Mexicans, with Asians, with Indians, like with the whole spectrum of ethnicities. Like I don't. Most people don't have the privilege of doing. I think that's awesome. I like to think I'm pretty because of that, and this might be elite, but I think I'm pretty cultured because of that.
Oh yeah, Nigerian as fuck. He just don't be like, y'all know.
Yeah, I do manners them. Like either you taught me that the whole like,
I'm
mm-hmm.
telling you,
I do that
we,
all the
we
time.
grow on people like a rash.
But to close it out, the topic of here was obviously political, and as you guys saw in the title, specifically in regards to government corruption and media collusion. So the last question to close it out to y'all is: do you think the government is corrupt, and do you think medias collude with each other?
I just think if we don't collude with each other, just based off peer pressure and the business model they have of trying to get clicks. Like if I see something's getting a lot of clicks, I may not get as many clicks as that original video or original post, but me posting something similar or relating to that topic will at least get me traffic that I probably wasn't going to get before because of the interest in that topic. So regardless whether they collude on purpose or not, just based off of media pressure and how the business model is set up, they almost all have to jump on trains for the monetary value until they can squeeze out as many dollars and views as they can out of a topic and then move on. That's why CNN loves Trump and Fox loves Obama. Well, not Fox, Tucker loves Obama.
I'll be honest with you, man. I don't really think about. I mean, I live my life trying to keep myself above water, and whenever I have my own time, I
You got bills to pay.
yeah. Whenever I have my own time, I spend it entertaining myself to avoid going back to working for my bills. So when this stuff comes on, I'm like, I've got more problems within my own world. So I'm not really going to think about this guy talking to Egypt when in New Jersey, let alone if he was in Texas, it's more relevant. But in New Jersey, I'm just like, I don't care. Like,
I completely understand that because it's like
yeah.
you can you can research it, you can look it up, you can kind of form your opinions on it, which we're allowed to do, which is what we're doing. But like, I can't affect it. I can't change it.
Yeah. All I can do is affect my own county and then see what happens.
Yeah, I think you guys already know my answer. Yes and yes. Based on everything I've said so far, you know where I lean.
I wore the shirt for a reason
I'm
today.
about to say I did wear the shirt for a reason today. All right. Thank y'all for tuning in to Fake Deep Thinking and sitting through our ranting. Went on a little bit on like a race kind of rant there for a little bit, but we do that. It's fun,
You're
you know.
related,
Sometimes it's related. I think it does.
like a cousin.
Yep. Make sure you guys like the video like a cousin. Make sure you guys like the video if you haven't liked it already. Leave a comment if you left a comment. Give us your opinions and we'll dissect it like we always do. We'll analyze it and we'll push back because we love that pushback. Share the video. Let's get more people in this conversation. Some more comments in here. We'll see you guys next time. No more politics. I'll try to sprinkle on politics here and there because politics can get exhausting and it's not as fun conversation. But you know what? Sometimes we got to know what's going on in the world.
I beat a
We'll see y'all next.
migraine, by the way. So
You said what?
congratulate me. Congratulations to John. I beat a migraine.
Hey, my man. No Excedrin either. He did it
All the
full
applause.
raw
Thank
and
you.
natural.
100. No, I was Excedrin. I
Oh,
definitely
okay.
cheated.
Damn.
So I'm actually still having the migraine. I just can't feel it. So
Hey, a win's a win. See y'all next time on Fake Deep Thinking, y'all. Peace.
Peace. Yo, thanks for making it to the end. We really appreciate it and hope you all enjoyed the show.
Make sure you hit that subscribe button, that like button, and the notification bell to get notified when we post our clips.
follow us on Twitter at PodcastFDT. Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok are all Fake Deep Thinking. Check us out, please.
FDT. Peace, y'all.
Peace.